Hey guys, and welcome back to the channel. It's another draw preview and prediction video, and we are going to get into a stacked ATP Brisbane International Tournament. It's the first ATP tournament of the year. Cannot wait to get into it. Novak Djokovic is the number one seed, so he's back in action. Nick Kyrgios is back after a long layoff and being injured. We've got Holger Rune, Dimitrov, to name a few top players. It's more like a 500, I would say, than a 250, but it's going to be a really exciting tournament, I think, and a great yardstick just to see where people are going to be at least initially, form-wise, going into the rest of the Australian summer, and then, of course, into the big one, which is the Australian Open. So what we're going to do is go through every single match, and I'll pick my winner in each match, work my way through the draw, and ultimately give you guys my predicted champion. Before we do, though, remember to that like button, do subscribe if you're new, and do leave a rating or review if you're listening on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, any podcast platform. It really does help us out. We appreciate it. And also leave a comment as well. On YouTube, lots of people leave comments and on their predicted champions or how they think the draw is going to go, or their favorite picks in terms of matchups. Let me know as well if you're watching on a podcast platform. I will reply, or we will reply to your comments. So get involved and interact, because we're here if you want to chat to us, that is. Okay, let's get into it then. So Novak Djokovic is the number one seed. He plays Rinky Hijikata wildcard in the first round. I picked him to get through. If I'm being honest, I don't think Rinky's going to beat him. I know Djokovic had some upsets last year. Luca Nardi to name one, Popperin to name two, and there's one more off the top of my head I can't remember. But yeah, there was a few last year. I think Hijikata's probably not going to do it, though, if I'm being honest. And look, the big question mark is going to be, how does Djokovic look physically? He wore that protective strapping on his knee for pretty much all of 2024. Are we still going to see that in action and being worn in this tournament, for example? And if so, how much longer is he going to wear it? And then on top of that, I think it's a question of, is he going to slow down at any point? Because, I think there have been some signs of maybe very, very small signs of him slowing down, but it hasn't been substantial enough for us to say, okay, right, this is now having a big effect on his game. We did see it with Rafa. I think it was pretty plain to see. So the question is, how much longer can Djokovic essentially, combat what is nature and fight against, it's a weird one, right? Because how long can he really fight against what naturally happens to every athlete? And that is, at some point in their careers, as they get towards the back end of it, there is a substantial physical decline. There's just a very, very substantial physical decline. And a lot of people say it happens overnight. I have a lot of elite athletes that have retired say, that overnight it happened, and some people say it's gradual. Look, Djokovic keeps his body in tip-top shape. He looks after it, not just externally with his stretching and looking after it conditioning-wise, that in that sense, but also he's very meticulous about what he puts in his body. And yeah, if anyone has the best chance of playing till 40 plus, is going to be him. But you just have to think with how physical tennis is nowadays, how much longer can he keep it up? But we'll see. We'll see. He's got Andy Murray in his corner as well, so great to see how that dynamic and how that team up is going to look in this tournament and going forward. And I'm excited for his season, if I'm being honest. And it looks like he's going to be playing a lot of tournaments, which is really the opposite of what a lot of people thought would happen, given what he said at the end of last year. So could it be his last year on tour? Potentially, I don't know. We'll see. But either way, this should be a fun tournament, and I have him making the second round at least so far anyway. Monfils and Napalka both have buys. Arnaldi plays Popperin. I mean, that is a really, really good matchup for me. Nardi is a very explosive young Italian. Popperin, of course, won Montreal last year, Masters 1000 tournament. He's got a massive serve, big forehand, big game. I'm going to go with him to get through that. He's going to be playing at home. I think he will rise to the occasion. I'm going to go for TFO to be home favourite, Adam Walton, who's got a wild card. And then we've got, I mean, I think on paper, the two best servers on tour in Nick Kyrgios and Mpeshi Pericard. Now, you could throw in a Pelka, a Berrettini, etc., etc. I think Kyrgios and Mpeshi Pericard, in my opinion, are the two best servers on tour. That's just how I see it. When fit, of course. Now, Pericard is going to get through a lot of service games. Kyrgios is a pretty good returner, but it's not his most natural skill, I would say. However, the biggest question mark for me is how is Kyrgios going to look physically in a different way to Djokovic, because he's been out for a while, right? The last time he played a substantial stretch of matches was in 2022. So this is going to be, this is going to be interesting to see. He has not really played any tennis apart from the odd exhibition here and there. Played one match grass court in the grass court swing. I think it was in 2023. I want to say, could be wrong. So yeah, I mean, it's not been ideal for him. He's had a lot of injuries, of course, and recovery hasn't quite gone as planned. Look, I mean, I'm actually going to go for him to win. I saw him play against Casper Ruud in the UTS like 6 months ago, I think it was, and I know they don't play that 100% like they do on tour, but Kyrgios just was cooking him. I mean, it was pretty crazy to see. I mean, I think sometimes people forget how much talent this guy has. Pericard is a phenomenal talent. I mean, as I said, the best serve on tour, in my opinion. And a pretty good forehand. He's coming to the net more. He's trying to improve. There's still the big holes in his game. I think Kyrgios, with his experience, will exploit them. And I don't think he needs to be at his best to beat him either. Jakub Mensik has a qualifier. We'll go for Mensik, of course. Qualifiers, I didn't look through them. Nishioka is a top seed, for example. But in my honest opinion, I don't think anyone has the potential to make, say, at least a semi-final. I'd be surprised if that is the case. So I'm just going to go through the draw and assume that the qualifiers, which isn't necessarily going to be the case, will get beaten in the first round because qualifying is still ongoing. Okay, Kazal plays Korda. We'll go for Korda in that one. Tabio to be qualifier. Jarry to be Navone. Rindenek to be qualifier. Look, this is a banana skin, a big banana skin for Holger Rune, if I'm being honest. Yuri Lehechka, again, had a pretty substantial layoff at the back end of last year. He loves hard courts. He loves fast hard courts. Holger Rune, this is not a good matchup. And I have to say, his draws have been pretty bad in the last 6 to 9 months. Look, I love to say that Holger Rune gets through it, but I have a bad feeling that Lehechka is going to take it. Rune, it'll be interesting to hear from him what he's done in the off season, if I'm being honest. Whether he'll tell us or not remains to be seen, but it's definitely a question people should ask. If I was there in Brisbane, I'd be asking, Holger, what did you do? What did you do in the off season to improve? I'm going to go with Rune to get through it. Thompson Berrettini is another really good first round matchup. I mean, very, very solid. I'm going to go for Berrettini to get the win. Thompson is a very, very crafty player, by the way. Very crafty, very solid. I don't think people realize how solid he is. Made lots of deep runs at tournaments last year. I mean, he's been rising through the rankings. He's been training a lot with Kyrgios, I know, as well, recently. I think they're good friends. But I'm going to go with Berrettini to get the win now. Then I'm going to go for Mickelson to beat Christopher O'Connell. David Goffin to beat Vukic. And Dimitrov to be the qualifier. So, round 16, we've got a really fun matchup. Djokovic has never lost in one feast. And the head-to-head is nuts. I think it's 18-0, if I'm not mistaken. and that's the top of my head. I haven't looked it up, or it might be 19. Djokovic, yeah, to be Monfils. Maybe, if I'm being honest, this is probably the best chance that Monfils would have to beat Djokovic. He's going to be rusty, so maybe he finally gets the win, but I doubt it. I just think mentally, Monfils is just lost before he even plays Djokovic nowadays. Pelka Poprin, and Poprin is just has too much of a diverse game for Pelka. I think Pelka is very, very limited at the moment. And to be fair, he always has been, but I just think that he hasn't really improved his game at all. He's got such an elite serve, but everything else in his game is just, to me, is not really up to scratch. The forehand included. TFO Kyrgios. That's going to be a really fun matchup. I hope we see it. Look, I mean, TFO should win it. Just because he's been playing a lot of tennis, he should be sharper. I'm just trying to think. I mean, TFO's backhand is very solid as well. So backhand to backhand, Kyrgios won't be able to dominate that like he would against some other players. It really depends on Nick. If Nick is playing well, he'll win. But I have no idea how he's going to look physically. And who knows, he could even pull out after the first round as well. That's the other thing. If his wrist is not feeling 100%. I'm going to Kyrgios, but I'm not sold. Jakub Mensik versus Sebastian Korda. Really exciting match. I'm going to go with Mensik, the young gun from Czech Republic, to beat Korda. I'm going to go with Jarry to beat fellow countryman Tabio. Rune to beat Rinderknech. Berrettini to beat Alex Michelsen. And Dimitrov to beat Goffin. So my quarterfinals are Djokovic versus Poprin. A replay of the US Open match. I'm actually going to go with Poprin to beat Djokovic again. Now, I'll tell you why. It's not to do with the fact that he beat him at the US Open. I mean, that could have some bearing if you want to place that much importance on it. But for me, it's actually more the fact that I think Djokovic physically, after a few rounds, I don't think he's going to be anywhere near 100%. I think Popper is going to be a lot sharper, and I think he can get the win because of that. I think Mensik will beat Kyrgios. I don't think we're going to see a Kyrgios-Djokovic semi-final, which would be fantastic if we were able to see it. I just don't think Nick's body, like Djokovic, is going to hold up for the whole tournament. I think these guys will be feeding their way into the tournament, and it's going to be tough to play a whole tournament after long layoffs like they've had. So I think Mensik to beat Kyrgios, and then I've got Rune to beat Nicholas Jarry. Is that right? Yeah. I'm going to go with Dimitrov to beat Berrettini. So that leaves us with semi-finals of Poprin and Mensik and Rune and Dimitrov. I'm going to go for Poprin to beat Mensik, and I'm going to go with Dimitrov to beat Rune. So that leaves us with a Dimitrov-Poprin final. I'm going to go with Grigor Dimitrov to beat Poprin in his home, on his home turf. Number 2 seed. I mean, he's been phenomenal, right? Dimitrov last year, in terms of at least his own career anyway. Number 10, well, top 10 in the world. Some great wins, including wins over people like Alcaraz. Yeah, I mean, hopefully he just keeps on bringing the heat. And if he does, then he could win it, like I'm predicting. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Remember to hit that like button. Do subscribe if you're new. Do a rating or review if you're listening on a podcast platform. We'll see you guys very, very soon.